Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest, and for that, I brought in Brian from Work to Game. How you doing, Brian?
Good, dude. What a freaking weekend this was. Hopefully we've all been able to rest and recover a little bit before filming this video, because I was like, yes. How was it for you? Like, because you were obviously like in the time zone where they're like, it's like already starting super late. So how was the experience for you? Because I know for me, it was great. And then all of a sudden, once I started getting into 2 a.m. my time, I'm like fighting it, like just trying to find a way to stay up.
So it's funny that you say 2 a.m. your time, because I believe that is when the presentation would have actually began in my time. It would have started at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch it live. Not to mention that on Saturday I had like cousin's birthday, so I couldn't really watch Saturday either. But then on Sunday, I basically had the two big VODs available to just do whatever I wanted. So Sunday I streamed it on Twitch. And I watched the keynote. I watched some of the memes and some of the interesting moments that took place throughout the presentation. And I just wanted to start this video by saying that Soken is friggin' amazing, and he's a goddamn legend. Am I right?
Dude, yeah, he's a gift. He's a gift in that. Well, and it's not only just with Soken, but it's the relationship, the insight we had with Yoshi P and Soken.
Yeah.
With that the love that these guys have for each other, for the game, for the community. And really, A, is both humbling, B, also to like kind of put into mindset like the struggle that people are going through that isn't necessarily public. Like this was his private struggle that he has gone through over this last year, but how he found like he was able to work through it, and how like wow, like there's no real words that I have that I think do it justice. I was crying. I watched it offline. Somebody told me kind of, hey, you need to go watch this, and I watched it offline because I thought that was a kind of a private moment, which was really nice, I thought.
Yeah.
And so he is a gift. The guy is a gift, and I am so happy he's in remission, and hopefully he'll remain that way.
Yeah, for those of you that don't actively follow Final Fantasy XIV or the Fan Fest or anything, basically Soken is the one responsible for the soundtrack in Final Fantasy, and the Shadowbringer soundtrack, which is the latest expansion, is just like some of the best soundtracks ever in gaming, as far as I'm concerned. It is really, really amazing. And Soken was battling cancer for like 6 to 7 months or something like that. And
during COVID as well.
Yeah. During COVID, battling cancer during COVID, and during this time, he basically just told the entire development team, like, he told Yoshi P, who is the creator, the game designer, he basically told him, don't tell anyone. Just like, let's work it out so that I can continue working from the hospital, and just don't tell anyone, because he kind of found his work to be a way to kind of like deal and fight against it. And it was just a really impressive moment in the presentation when they talked about this, and you could see that Yoshi P was breaking down. Like, I just wanted to acknowledge that before we get into the hype stuff and whatnot, because you can tell that this team loves working on this game, and they love the players of the game. Like, they don't take this for granted after the problems that they've had with the transition from the kind of like botched launch of 1.0 and the kind of rebirth from the ashes of Realm Reborn. They've struggled a lot to get to that point, and they still don't take that for granted, despite the fact they've delivered Heaven's Word, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, amazing expansions, amazing content. They're still like constantly striving to go even further.
Yeah, and that's I think that's a really good way to kind of touch on that before diving into like just the announcements, because that's how they ended.
Yeah,
that they didn't open up with this. It's like they like, here's what we've got for you. They're really excited for this, information. Boom, 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 and there was so many booms. Like there was just like back to back to back.
And this was like my first Fan Fest, so I don't know how many of these you've watched and covered. I assume a lot of them. But like, because I wasn't really actively playing the game, I've never really seen what the Fan Fest was like. So this time I got to see it. And there's just like so many amazing things throughout this Fan Fest that I was just like, wow, this is what it looks like when a development team really enjoys their game and really respects their community and appreciates the kind of like the community culture around their video game. I felt like that's what it was, just a celebration of the culture around the video game. It wasn't even that much like, an advertisement for the game. It was just like, oh, the fans think this is funny. Let's go ahead and do this because this will be really cool, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. In fact, I saw a lot of people as more people come and check out the game coming from any other of kind of the big MMOs and say, wow, like there you feel that especially at this event. You feel the
Yeah.
difference, you feel the mindset, the love of the game itself. And I mean it speaks to also the investment and the trust and the belief of Square Enix behind it when they announced the Oceanic servers. I cannot
Yep.
express just how like yes, that doesn't to you or me who's playing the game directly impact us because we actually already have our own data center. But for the Oceanic area, so Australia, like this is massive news. And I'm so thrilled that they're adding in that data center. And honestly, it tells me that they're really coming for World of Warcraft. Like this, like it's, they haven't like waged all out war against the World of Warcraft, but it's more this like like okay, we're just making up a little bit of ground every year. Every year we're just gonna, like take it one step further. And that ends up being such a huge boost. And this in and of itself is going to hopefully allow players in that region not to feel like they're like second then. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I've talked to like with we talked with Ethis and we talked with Skill Up. It's like, hey, I'm sorry that we don't really have anything in your area, your zone. Good luck.
But
Hopefully the ping isn't too bad.
it's funny that you bring up World of Warcraft and them waging a war with them because like they don't have to go to war. Like World of Warcraft
You
keeps
know what?
shooting itself in the foot. Like
Right.
they just keep shooting themselves in the
Right.
foot.
And so it's Warcraft's doing that, but then 14's just like doing this slow, like consistent march. Even Bellular himself is like,
Yeah.
what is Final Fantasy doing that even during a pandemic they've been able to release content for their game? And honestly, I guess the answer is that like they're
They
passionate.
care.
They
Yeah,
want
they
to. Yeah.
like they just like what they're doing, and to them it's important, so they keep doing it. That's the thing. So
Yeah.
one of the first things that we see is the new trailer with obviously the Paladin being the poster boy, just like doing amazing stuff, slicing up monsters in half, which was really cool to see. I'm just like, am I getting a damage buff? Do I get to slice monsters in half in 6.0? Is that how that's working?
Well, yeah, and the one thing is that the trailers, just for anybody who isn't really like aware, like they're not like set in lore. They're hype. Like
Yeah,
trailers are here for hype, and so they can do a lot of fun things. But yeah, at the end of the day, like that paladin looks powerful. The warrior light looks just destructive, and I can't wait. Honestly, I would love to see what changes they're making to paladin this expansion. I think that's
I
going to be
am
interesting to see
super
overall.
curious. I'm super curious. Like you see him fighting again. That monster with the teeth is that like something? Because I don't know a lot about. No, I've played like maybe 3, 4, 5 Final Fantasies. Like, is that a monster that is well known or something like that? That dude that shows up with the teeth and then gets sliced in half.
You'll actually see that monster specifically in the trailer in Shadowbringers, especially in Amarat. The essentially it's when they talk about the end, like this is the end, the star was about to fray. These are the like
Wait,
what
is
happened is
he's in
that's why
that
they brought about
dungeon?
Zodiac and Hydra. Yeah, he is. He's one of the yeah. So that the worm, like a lot of the different worms. So like his specific model might not be. He could be a variation,
Okay.
but we've seen those kind of worms with all kinds of things going on before. And I think that's all tied into one of the reasons why Hodiarch, there we go,
Odiark.
Zodiarch and Hydaelyn, Hodiarch, there we go. We've combined them in this in this theoretical primal to why they ended up coming about because it's that they're like desperate in terms of that. So things were going horribly wrong, and we've seen those enemies make their way into the game itself. So if you look at the like the level 80 dungeon, you'll see that model. Maybe not exactly the same, but
Yeah,
still
now
there.
that you've mentioned that, you kind of see at least the teeth looking things on the last boss. At least I think he's got like
Yeah.
some teeth looking things going on his side.
Hmm.
So yeah, you are right. I didn't even make that association when I initially saw it. That's really cool. We also saw Istinian coming in, flying a new dragon from the first brood. Vritra is what they're calling it.
Right. I didn't catch that when I originally watched the
Uh,
story, but it's really cool that people kind of pick that apart. That it wasn't because I was like, is that Tomat? And I was like, all right, I've seen, and the reason is that they've done trailers and box arts where it's like, okay, that's actually like not the right dragon, but
yeah.
so I didn't put too much stock into the dragon that they showed, but in fact, it looks like that's having more of an impact of what we're gonna see. with the
Yeah.
story itself. So more dragons is like I love dragons. Happy to see them. So I'm excited about that.
That was actually like I'm not sure if you've watched Asmongold's reaction to the trailer because
I haven't yet. I haven't. We
I
did some reaction content yet so far, but I have not seen. And go ahead, please.
yeah, like so immediately like after I saw all of the stuff that I was curious about in the stream, I saw that there was a reaction video to Asmongold watching the trailer, and he was just like the first. Here's one of the first things he said. Music kind of sucks.
Oh wow, he's trolling. He's either trolling or he doesn't.
No,
yeah,
he's not. He's not.
I can't get behind that at all.
I don't think he's into it. But I was like, oh my god, no! You can clearly see like people are instantly upset. He's got like 1K downvotes on the video or whatever. But it was funny. But then it's like when he saw the dragon, that was his thing. He's like, oh my god, this is cool. This is really cool. So it was funny because he started the video and was like, okay, let's get this over with. And then by the end of the video, it was like, we're going to the moon, boys.
I really hope he does check it out. That'd be something I would personally like I would enjoy seeing his, like, actually, if he actually wanted to play it. We put a video out on Work the Game, and it's like, just skip the story. Like, don't even bother with it.
I think he should.
Like, I don't think he's going to connect with it. Like, just skip the story, team up with somebody who knows what they're doing, and have them pull you into the fights. Like, pick a class, go nuts, don't worry about it, play.
If he goes, if he tries playing it normally, he's not going to make it like past level 30.
No,
100%.
Not at all. Not, like it's done.
He's going to burn out on. He's going to burn out on Realm Reborn. It's like there's no way. But the new trailer was outstanding. I love the stuff. The friggin' Xenos has a gun scythe. Like, do you notice that? His scythe is like, he's got like gun stuff. So I'm like, hey, gun scythe. Now that looks friggin' interesting. And obviously with the scythe, we also had the reveal of the new class. I mean, if the official reveal, because I think most people already knew that it was going to be the Reaper. Everybody was saying the Reaper after the latest tease with his T-shirts and whatnot. So how do you feel about the Reaper as a new class being added into the game?
I mean, so for me personally speaking, like this melee really does appeal to me, both visually and how they showed it off. Like it isn't really like full necro, but it's kind of what I've been wanting. I'm like, give us an up close melee. They have the avatar of the void, and it looks like that empowers the Reaper. And I was like, this looks great. Statistically, from a video and a content creator perspective, I think Reaper is something that really is good advertising to appeal to players who are like, yeah, I really don't see a class or a job that I want to play. And we have a lot of really good ones. I'm not trying to knock the things that we have, but typically every time they've introduced a job, it's like, hey, what is the game kind of lacking thematically or combat style wise? And I've seen just the numbers up on how to get started with this game, et cetera, just go up through the roof since the Reaper was announced. And yes, that's probably a little bit due to hype, but I think that there's a way of appealing to other MMORPG players who are like, yeah, okay, I want to play that scythe wielding, damage focused, class job. And Reaper is, I think, a real big win. All in all, with Reaper and Sage, I think this is probably going to be one of the strongest lineups in terms of jobs introduction to 14 that we've seen to date.
I completely agree. And you want to know what the best part is? There's a melee DPS. So there's a DPS class and a healing class. So the thing that's going to be lacking the most is going to be tanks. It's going to be so good for my queue times. I'm going to have instant queues all the time. But it's good for everybody else because I'm going to be tanking. Okay, I'm going to be queuing a lot during Endwalker, so I will be able to tank for your group. So you're in good hands.
You're going to catch up fast. You're going to be leveled up fast, and that's going to be nice. You're like, all right, we're already level 90. We're ready to go. So no, I think Reaper's a real great introduction. I like the fact that it's not a pet class, but it does have that extra thing going on with it, and I can't wait to see how it ultimately plays. I can't wait to go hands on with it. Hopefully, I'll be able to go hands on with it. Sometime this fall. Fall, because that's when they'll be doing the media tour. So hopefully we'll get invited back out to that, and I can kind of go hands on and give you guys a breakdown of it. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to that. This is most likely the first expansion that I level through the story on a non-summoner. So that's going to be kind of an interesting kind of treat and difference to the previous, because I've always leveled Summoner Scholar through the story. This time around, it does not appear that that's what's going to happen because I'm definitely leaning into doing Reaper, then Sage, and then maybe doing Summoner Scholar at that time.
Yeah, that Reaper definitely looks. It's like just even in terms of the animations, the team always does so friggin' well with their animations, which is one of the things that I'm hoping. Like, I hope they touch up on some of the Paladin animations with him being the poster boy. I'm like, yeah, make the animations look prettier. I like animations, but the stuff that they've shown on Reaper was just friggin' outstanding. I loved it, and
Yeah.
it was interesting because some people were we talked about World of Warcraft when I was reacting to some of this stuff, and I was like, what you guys need to understand about the Reaper is that probably is most basic rotation is going to be the same as like 4 World of Warcraft classes put together.
Possible Dragoon, and they're going to share armor with Dragoon. So who knows? Like it'll be interesting to see how they balance these two jobs together.
Actually, I'm probably going to be leveling up a Dragoon because I still hadn't made up I wanted to see what was going to be revealed in terms of DPS. And yeah, I like the Reaper, but at the same time, I think I might enjoy Dragoon more than Reaper. So I'm actually thinking I might level up a Dragoon because I only want to have 5 classes to do the role quests later down the line. And I'm thinking that my melee DPS is probably going to be Dragoon, which is the only class that I still don't have is the melee DPS.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, so Yoshi P came out dressed up as a Reaper with a hat that he kept on throughout the entire keynote, and I thought that was friggin' impressive because you could tell
that they might have had it pinned on him or something like that because I was like, I bet that guy's hot because he kept it on, but I was like, at some point I was like, I wonder if he would overheat because it's like you got to be hot under the stage lights. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's like it was interesting because he kept like holding the tip of the hat up so that he could actually see because he couldn't see crap with that thing.
Well, it's like my question is Ronso and Viera gonna get hats? Is that like are they gonna have hats for this job or are they not? And if they're not gonna have hats, I already kind of said publicly that if they don't add, they don't even have to make it all the hats, but like going forward, like hey, we're gonna add all that to the new jobs, new
So
races.
the new hats, you mean?
I'll switch back to Elzen. I've it's been a whole like expansion in a little bit over 2 years. So at the end of the day, like I can't. There's certain hats that I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to put on. I can't wear that as a Ron, so I might just switch back to my Elzen come Endwalker if that's still the case.
By Ronzo, you mean Rothgar. Ronzo was like 11, right? That's what they were in 11, I would assume.
I mean, yeah, Hrothgar, but they're also known as the Ronso, like in the on the first. So I usually use the first terms.
Oh, all right. Nice. I had no idea because I just
you're
play
good.
I just play human. I want it to be a dwarf, but they don't have like actual fantasy dwarves like.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like I've been back and forth from Lalafell, but I always end up going back to my nice. My Highlander with painted eyebrows because they can't have eyebrows, so I painted on him. I thought he looked weird without eyebrows, but yeah.
What do you think of that male Viera announcement? Because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm so happy I was wrong. Like I did not see them doing that, and the fact that they did that was really quite shocking. What did you think about that?
I wasn't expecting them to add male Viera either, because I think they've said at a point that no, we're not going to do male Viera and we're not going to do female Hrothgar, right? They said that at some point. And then now they're just like, no, actually, we're just going to do them both because you guys made such a fuss about it. So here you go. But like my main thought was always when I saw it, I was like, okay, like Zepla is probably going to explode over this. There's like,
Did you watch her reaction?
Yeah.
Did you watch her reaction? Yeah, it was good. It was a good reaction.
She went completely ballistic over it. Now, I don't know enough about Zepla, so I was just left with a question in my mind. So is she actually going to gender swap her character to play a male Viera? Is that what's?
I don't know. I don't know, and whether she does or doesn't. Like, I think she's just excited that it exists.
I think she's more excited that she's going to be seeing them in the world than necessarily wanting to play it herself. But I honestly don't know because I just don't.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's gonna ultimately we'll find out when they add them to the game. So
yeah, pretty much. So we also got to take a glimpse at some of the new zones. That Labyrinthus zone looked freaking insane with an artificial sun. It's just like in some underground thing with a dome and all of that stuff. What'd you thought about that?
I think that I wonder if that's on the moon at some point. Like I wonder what that is. And the only issue I had with that was the music that they played with
Yeah,
it. Like,
the music was like, no.
yeah, and then you go and you look at like obviously Thavnir, and it's like the music I thought was great, but then some of the color schemes I was like, but again, like these zones aren't finished; they haven't finished
Yeah.
adding textures. There's plenty of work to be done there. Excuse me, just one second. Go ahead.
You do get a distinctive like Indian vibe from
Mhm.
Thavnir from the stuff that they've shown, which I thought was it's something different. They keep like bringing in all of these different influences into the game, and I think that it makes it very it gives you a lot of contrast between the different zones, which I think is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
This expansion looks like it's the most visually diverse expansion.
Yep.
The old Sharlayan coming into play, I thought was huge and like really important. The fact that they revealed that 1.0 was originally supposed to have 6 starting cities, but they had to cut 3 of them for time for launch, and old Sharlayan was supposed to be one of them. So now with the launch and with the fact that we can finally go to the city itself, like completes that original vision for the 6 main city states that they were looking to add to this game, and I was like, "That's insane!" Like I did not see that coming.
Yeah, the old Charlatan say like when I see the statue with the water dropping down, just the color of the water
Beautiful,
and the big marble city, you're just like, wow, this is freaking
gorgeous.
sick. And not to mention that there's so much always like being referenced in the story about the Sharlayan scholars and
All the
like
time, all
and
the time.
anything that happens in this game, they're always like, well, the Sharlayan scholars would say, and it's like, dude,
Well,
everything's a
it
show.
makes sense now. It makes
Yeah,
sense that they're like why they everybody keeps talking about these, and so many people come from there, and we have never been able to go there. And it's like, well, originally, I guess a part of the story is that we were like people could be from there. You could technically start from there, and I was like, oh, fascinating. Super utterly fascinating. So it just kind of makes me like you when you ever go like you wonder what if they didn't launch 14 in a bad state and they had all of this different content, what it would look like today, and like would we like it or not? Like I don't know. Like it could be something so different that would be unrecognizable. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what this ends up being and ends up concluding. Personally speaking.
yeah, like I'm super curious to jump in there and figure out more about the lore of that whole place and
Mhm.
whatnot. I think it's gonna be pretty friggin' wild. Um, we also got a glimpse at some of the new dungeons, which I
Mhm.
particularly like the one with the train. I'm always curious about stuff that like moves you from different points in the dungeon through some kind of like dynamic transport, which I'm not sure if that is going to be like a main mechanic in it or not. But I thought that looked pretty good. There was also the dungeon with like the dynamic connecting things, but I really wanted to see more on dungeons, like we discussed on
Yeah.
the video that we collabed before. I was like, come on, tell me specifics, mechanics. I want to know more. What are you doing? Are we gonna stick to the same formula? I really hope it's not that same formula. It was like 2 packs in a wall, 2 packs in a wall. Like I hope they change that up significantly.
I think a lot of vets hope for that same thing. I just am not setting the expectation for it. I'd rather them change it up and be surprised rather than go in and say, "Yep, it's a dungeon. It's
It's the
exactly like
same.
it's the same." And then you just pull to the wall and rinse and repeat, pull to the wall, rinse and repeat, and go there. We'll have to wait and see. I want to find a reason. I would love for them to take the massive amount of work they've done on Dungeons Past and find a way to make that relevant at the end game, bringing it in, allowing us to do different things. Because that's one of the things I've even wanted since, like, even Heaven's Word. It's like, how great would it be if all those leveling dungeons also had a level 80 version so that you could have more than just the 3 or the 2 dungeons at end game when the expansion drops to do something with. But that is what it is for now. And as much as I want them to do something bigger, I don't know. Like this is Endwalker, this is 6.0. Yeah, I would put money that it's not going to change, and if it does change, I would happily lose that money. Like that would be a win-win. Something that I wanted happened, great. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't.
Do you think that that would have the potential? Because like I know from my own taste, like the things that I like, but I kind of feel like you with the content that you and Chris are always working on, that you guys have a better pulse on the community than I do for sure. Because I spend much more time creating content for like Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy XIV is just something I like to engage in, right? But do you think that something like a better dungeon experience could be something that brings in even more people? Because like right now, I would say that
Yeah.
the biggest asset in 14 is its story. The story
Yeah.
is amazing,
Right.
but unfortunately,
The
there's a
story
lot
has
of people.
has an ending point, and so
Yeah,
you don't just story every day because it's like, okay, I've seen this. So you got to have that retention mechanic. And I think what you would end up getting is, I don't know if it would draw in a lot of people right away, but what I think it would do is it would help people continue to enjoy the game after the story is finished and say, oh, cool, I'm working on these other aspects of content to enjoy. And that would then have people either looking at it or continuing to play it, which then in turns, I think, draws more people in. Because if it's like, hey, you finish the story, are you coming back to whatever game? It's like, no, man, there's so many really cool systems that I want to play. Come join me here. And that's how I always kind of view it, as more it adds access and invitation when they upgrade and refresh these systems. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly, like what you kind of said, kind of alluded to it a couple times, and we kind of talked about it as we were just getting ready to record. Was like this is a great event because like it goes well beyond the active player base or the
yeah.
secondary player base. It's on a break. This hits the mainstream kind of like media, games media. Everybody's kind of talking about it. It trends on Twitter. But the nitty gritty, the details that you and I are both hungry for as active players, is going to come in the fall. And so I see a lot of people are like, "Hey, where's the job trailer?" It's like that comes all in the media tour. Like we're gonna wait, 3 or 4 or 5 months for that. And that's, I'm like you. I'm like, give me the meat, give me the details, give me the like the numbers.
We want to
Let's
see the
see some
nuts and
changes.
bolts. Yeah,
I want
like
to see it because
what's
that's
the
what I
new
want to.
Paladin rotation looking like? Like, what are we doing? Come on, tell me more.
Exactly, 100%, 100%.
Um, so in regards to the new raid, because they talked I mean, they didn't talk too much about it. They showed like an art piece which is Myths of the Realm, and it showed symbols of the 12. Do you have like any inkling of what that could possibly be? Think we're going to be fighting the gods? Like what's the
Well,
deal?
4 bosses per stage, 3 stages. That's 12. So it's like I hope so. I hope so. How awesome would that be? Nothing else. I'm really excited to see where this story goes. It felt like the whole 12 aspect got put to the side. Maybe that was always the intention, but it's kind of always like, well, what about them? Like everything's always been kind of shifting to focus, and were they just kind of like names that were like, adopted from the previous, like, theory and legends and stuff like that. So the fact that it's called Myths of the Realm, I'm so excited to see what it means. And honestly, with that, because if you think about the timing, both Pandemonium and Myths, those are a part of the like, or at least outside of the main story of 6.0.
Yeah.
6.0 and the expansion's story, 6.1 starts a new one. So the raid series itself, in my mind, is taking place somewhere outside of that story. The Myths of the Realm is taking place obviously outside of that story, maybe a part of the new story that's building up or going around. So I'm personally very excited to see how this plays out.
Do you think that there is a possibility, like considering that 6.0 is the end of the, because this was something that came to mind with
Mhm.
6.0 being the end of like the current Heidelin Zodiac story arc and all of that stuff. Do you think that they would do something in lines of like, okay, with 7.0, new engine, and they would do something to like,
I think it's possible. Honestly, I've been thinking that's what they've been working on behind the scenes this whole time, for years. Like as you've seen, kind of things get reduced. 1 dungeon per patch now. Like it used to, like we were at 3 dungeons per patch at one point. So it's like there's just this been general, like, yeah, and they've added in new systems and new content. But behind the scenes, I think that they're smart enough to know that, hey, you got your, it's 11 years now and soon like 12 and 13. So you add 2 more years, right? So 2 years, 7.0. We're in 2023, 2024. And
yeah,
you're not competing in a bubble. PSO2 New Genesis is launching in June. That's a massive game in Japan. I think it's based off of what I played this weekend. Massive. It's like it's so exciting. However, you think about it, it's like imagine if that new engine didn't, doesn't mean that the game ends, and it also doesn't mean that we abandon the previous game, right? Like if you
yeah.
think of 2.0 to 6.0, you can say almost like, yep, that's preserved right here, and then new engine, we can do different things. We can have a new entry point for players who then can step into, because if they connect our characters between the new engine and an old engine, that it would be ideal. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, so keep expectations realistic. We're
Yeah, of
talking a lot
course.
of work, but like literally, like throughout Stormblood, I'm like, there's something going on behind the scenes. The theory is that something that's going behind the scenes is 16. It pulled the Heavensward team over to that, but that's a standalone, JRPG. So what is the team working on after that? Like, I think when you look at it, it's like a new engine, especially because the engine and the technology behind the scenes is going incredibly well. If you haven't seen New World, regardless of how you feel about it, visibly that you knock down a tree in the world and that tree falls. It's not like you have a physical impact on that, and the world and the zones look gorgeous.
Yeah, I
So
would I
imagine
would
I
assume
start
that
imagining
those
what 14 looked like in that.
yeah. I would assume
And
that
you,
those trees get like respawned from what I remember from the
they
beta at
do,
least.
but
Yeah.
you never see it
Yeah.
responding. They go from spread like over time the tree grows, so it does have a replenishing system, but you never see just a giant tree pop in. It
But yeah,
never just pops up.
and even just the combat of New World was one of the things that I thought was impressive, regardless of the fact that it was very, very, very badly balanced in the beta that I played. But
Yeah.
the combat itself was cool because it wasn't the traditional tap targeting system and whatnot. But
But outside of that, like you imagine with 14 though, like all of a sudden you can sit here and say, hey, here's the reason why these systems have changed. Here's the reason, and here's how's us setting us up for the next decade. And you can kind of go from there, and you could really kind of reimagine and do a lot of different things. And if it's going on behind the scenes, I honestly think they're, if they don't do it, I think they're at least are talking about it or exploring
yeah.
how do you like manage this game, because they're going to be competing against this, not just in New World, but other MMORPGs that are launching with like, hey, we fixed this issue. Like, yeah, we don't have that problem anymore. But who knows?
And
At the end of the day, like,
especially
I
one of
don't.
the things that kind of reinforces that for me is also like, you have someone like Yoshi P, and he strikes me as someone who is ambitious considering what he was able to do with Final Fantasy XIV, right? And he's said it before that he considers 14 to be his life's work, that he's going to be with it for a long time to come. And he's reaffirmed that during this
Mhm.
fan fest. And I'm just like, okay, so look, you got this spaghetti code going on, this spaghetti code situation here going on for 14, and you're like, this is my life's work. There's no way that he's gonna be, doing spaghetti code for the rest of his life. Like, there's
Right.
no way that that's his plan.
Yeah. The other way technologically is going into that foundation code and replacing those systems and replacing that code. And that's expensive and that takes a lot of time. And that could be what a lot of the teams focusing in on, is that they're going into the engine, they're going in and fixing in this stuff, they're going in and doing these things. And it's just a process of time, and so people are playing, it helps fund them, it funds the game, and it funds the future development. And over time, hopefully we see this. The thing that kind of concerns me from an engineering perspective is that the changes to the fate system only impacted Shadowbringers, most likely Shadowbringers and things going forward. The changes that they bring in system wise to Endwalker might just be Endwalker and forward. And that in and of itself is like, ARR could
You end
really
up with
benefit.
that content, yeah.
Yeah, ARR could really benefit from the trust system. It could. Like adding in the trust system into ARR helps alleviate a lot of that new player anxiety. It helps alleviate a lot of that. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And then you have all these vets that have been playing this game for 10 years and they're just rushing all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage that? And it's weird to be like, yeah, like the system that would really help you out is actually in 5.0. You got to get to that before you actually have that experience. Same thing with like right now on stream, Chris is running the story to MSQ roulette. Well, what would help alleviate a lot of the MSQ roulette stress is if you could run that with trusts, like
Yeah.
go forward. And maybe we'll see that integrated at some point backwards, but it does take a lot of work because some of that foundational code work isn't a part of that spaghetti code until they go and make it a part of it.
That's actually something that I've stated in the past as well, which is I think that MSQ being the big EXP thing that people do, I think that's actually really bad because people start looking at that part of the story, which when I first did it, I was like, dude, this thing is amazing. Look at all the things that are happening. And it just completely trivializes that because it's like, oh, here we go again. Here comes La Habrea with this speech and is like, oh, unleash Ultima. Oh my God. Oh no. Like, we all know what's going to happen. We're saying the lines, we're memeing on it and all that stuff. And you see a lot of times just like full groups of veteran players jumping into MSQ just to boost their characters. And it's like, wouldn't it be better if you just had like one queue that would queue you to literally anything that is random and give you that same chunk of EXP, and then just have the MXQ be a solo thing. I think it would be better personally, but to each his own.
I think that would help. I think that'd help alleviate some stress because a lot of people like, yeah, the rewards are great, but I can't do it. I don't MSQ. I don't MSQ roulette. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll get there. I'll get to cap. I'll get to cap without it. Just don't want to sit in it. I just don't like, hey, you have an hour. Like, I'm not going to waste it there.
But go ahead.
I said, that's just me. To each their own.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but it is important to mention because we have been talking about some really speculative stuff, especially in regards to like 7.0. This is all speculation, guys. None of this is like we don't have any particular inside information. Yeah, we'd love to know, but we just don't. But besides just like stuff around the game itself, there was a lot of thing in this fan fest that I was very impressed because again, like I said, it was my first fan fest, and I was very impressed with how much they just kind of like play into the meme. So one of the other things that people insist that I saw was they played the music from The Twining, which is A Long Fall, I believe is the name of it, and there's developers in the background just like doing the dance from that meme video. Did you see that?
No, I missed that. I missed that completely.
Oh, dude, you got.
I was like, I was sleeping.
Yeah,
I had to get up early and get the kids taken care of. So it's like, okay, I could squeeze in 3 hours of sleep. I gotta find it somewhere.
Oh, dude, then listen, you missed out on a few things.
I'm gonna go back and lurk on that because they have it all up for people to consume. So I'm gonna be doing that this week.
Yeah, like you definitely want to be checking that out because they did the Twining meme, right, where they have like the dude dancing and there's a party and whatnot, right? You know that one?
Yeah.
So they basically did that, but like with developers dancing in the background and they dance around. It's just really, really well made. And I was like, dude, this is insane. Because this is like them just basically acknowledging, hey, we know this is a meme in the community. We're going to play into that and we're all just going to have a good time. There was a moment during the concert while he was playing that where you could just see Soken looking back to the other developers dancing and laughing his ass off.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was one of the funniest things because, I had a lot of people in my stream that don't really play 14 and they were watching this for the first time. And then I just turn around and I tell them, by the way, guys, everyone that is playing right now and everybody that is dancing right now, these are all developers of the video game. These aren't like paid actors or a band that was paid to be on stage. These are all actual developers of the game. People are just like, what the hell? But there were a lot of other, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't see this. You didn't see Soken perform Lahi then.
I will because I'm gonna go watch that live, but I couldn't stay up. Like I got to the point where like physically I was just hurting, and it's like, all right, that's the adult limitation.
Yeah,
that I run into.
I wanted to ask you about that, but I guess you haven't watched any of the extra stuff.
We probably could talk about that like on the podcast this week, where like my plan this week is like, okay, yeah, they have it where it's on demand. I can go back and catch up on the segments that I missed.
Yeah.
I focus more on the information so that way we could summarize it so people could just kind of pop in and be like, all right, what do I need to know? And go from there. And so then for the more entertainment stuff, because we couldn't stream any of it anyway. So it's like my plan is to kind of, as I'm working.
Why couldn't you stream it?
Square Enix has like exclusive broadcast rights, and it's so yeah, it was weird because nobody really was. It kind of came out in a tweet, and so we ended up just saying like, rather than hear that information and then not act on it, like we were like, all right, cool. So we watched it privately.
I streamed it yesterday.
I don't know if it was maybe while I was live. I don't know what the rules.
I hope I don't get into
into
trouble for that.
Clear. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like you streamed it, I was like, well, maybe that's not a problem. I like honestly, it was like the information came out in a tweet and had everybody going like, well, we know we can do the keynote because they said you can do the keynote.
Oh, that's what I did okay, then. Cool. I didn't stream like the entire. I just did the keynote. Yeah.
The keynote's fine. Yeah, you're fine with the keynote. It was just everything else, and it was just that the question was like, well, like it would have been. We would have appreciated more of a heads up. And if they gave us a heads up, it just wasn't disseminated. It wasn't understood and so then everybody, I think, just decided to play it safe and say, okay,
yeah,
we're going to be good.
Yeah. I didn't see it at all. I was like, hey, I want to stream this thing. I just started streaming it.
Yeah. You're good.
But,
you're good. And it's just, now I'm just sitting here going like, bring on the 25th for 55555, and I'm
man.
looking forward to diving more back into into Boja. And yeah, and also like Boja, Relic, Blue Mage. Like that's kind of where I'm like, yep, I'm ready to go. Let's do this thing.
Is Blue Mage going to be able to go to Boja?
No, it's not. And that's where I was hoping that we would get an announcement that over the summer. Because you think about it, we got 6 months till Endwalker. 6 months. Okay, man. Whew, all right. How do we make it to then? I was hoping that they'd be like, you know what? We're going to open up Blue Mage to go into Palace of the Dead or a couple things so that you could just go break the game in certain ways where it doesn't matter. And but it is what it is. And so it's like, okay, well, just going to play and have fun and make up my own fun and do some PSO2 and just play some games this summer. I think that's gonna be my plan. Especially it'll be nice when Maddie's out of school, so I don't have to get up and get all the kids up early in the morning. I could kind of get up, play some games maybe early in the morning, and then go to work.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. But
That's the plan.
yeah, I just like to say I was very impressed with the Fan Fest, with it being my first one. I think that they do an outstanding job with that stuff, and I'm also super pumped for 5.5, but even more so for 6.0, where my Paladin becomes the main character.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it's like, like I enjoyed Dark Knight, but I actually didn't go to Dark Knight. I went to Gunbreaker. So with a cover tank, I'm wondering if Paladin will bring me back in. There's two changes that I just wanted for Paladin, and Shadowbringers, and I hope we see them make that in Endwalker.
What are the changes? I'm curious now.
I wanted Atonement to kind of I wanted like Iron Will or like the your main combo that whenever it triggers Atonement, that it just turns one of your skills into Atonement, because Atonement's on its own button, right? So I was like, it could just be an upgraded skill that, you got Atonement, you got it for 3 stacks, because I ended up having to, like, it was Atonement and there was one other skill and I can't for the life of me remember what it is.
Is it Holy Spirits for the other rotation?
Yeah, that, and also like Holy Spirit or the AoE. It's like I had working. I was just like, I wanted it to be, because I like having more of my, like whenever I can instacast, I want it on my ABXY so that like I can use things and move rather than having on the D-pad. So I had to move like no matter what, Holy Spirit and the AoE Holy Spirit to the D-pad just to keep things easy to flow. And it was always annoying that if I had to move while in a requisite magic combo that I couldn't use, like I was like, man, it'd be great if I had it over here. I got it to work, but it was just like, man, if Atonement wasn't on, if I didn't want that on the ABXY, man, I could move Holy Spirit, I could move that over there and be real comfortable with it. But I had to keep it. I want to keep Atonement.
I got to discuss my strategy with you. Maybe it'll fix it, because I also had a couple of issues with that, but I set it up. But yeah. That is Final Fantasy XIV. We're super hyped. If you guys are curious about Final Fantasy XIV, because I know that a lot of you guys in my community probably aren't actively playing it, because a lot of times people, whenever I talk about 14, they come to me and they're like, "Oh man, you're almost making me want to buy this game," and I'm like, "You shouldn't buy this game. There's literally a free trial that gives you the first expansion for free, which is like over critically acclaimed Evansward, over like 200 hours of content that you can play for free with no time limits. And then, after you've played 200 hours of the game, you can be like, you know what, I actually like it. Maybe I'll buy it. That's the advantage.
I had somebody come in on the stream and said they just bought the game and they played 900 hours of that free trial. That's incredible. Welcome.
I'm assuming they leveled up like all of the classes to level 60? 60, right?
Heavensward? 60 is the cap with the free trial. And then that would be what I would do if you're trying to maximize your dollar per hour. Just take advantage, get everything to cap before you start having to pay the subscription. It's like, call it a day.
Yeah.
Get it done. And then it's like, okay, now I'm in. Got everything staged. I'm not paying for something that I was getting for free. And that's my advice. But there are some limitations in terms of like guild that you can carry, free company. So like, I get that there's restrictions, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're having fun, man, that's choice is yours.
It is what it is.
I would not buy the game. I would always tell people, start with a free trial.
Do the free trial and then figure it out.
See if it's something for you, because not every game is. Not every game is going to be for you. So,
but that is going to be it from us, you guys. I will have links to everything from Brian in the description of this video. What are you working on this week, Brian?
Well, honestly, I hope that I'm not working on much. I did a lot of work this weekend for
I
14
can imagine.
and for Fantasy Star Online 2. And so Chris and I usually we film Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays kind of videos for discussion. And so we put up polls on the channel. So if you guys are following Work to Game, be sure to go vote and weigh in on the polls so we can feature those kind of y'all's thoughts in discussion videos. And yeah, so we'll be rolling out our typical Work to Game week of discussions and whatnot. And I think right now the big thing is I'm trying to see if I get our podcast back because I've been kind of
Oh yeah.
we have moments of we're like podcasting and then it's like and we'll take 3 weeks off and then okay we're back.
Yeah, we
So
need
I'm
to get to
hoping that we
work on
can
that.
get the group together and just kind of because there's so much to talk about.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'm excited to kind of get that engaged. But I think a lot of this week's gonna be more focusing on the work side. So Chris is the game. He's streaming right now on Twitch. Work to Game on Twitch if you guys like Twitch, and I'm the work. So I'm just like, all right, gotta pay these bills and try to get these kids into college at some point. So we'll see.
Yep. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit it up with a like. Once again, make sure to check out all of Brian's stuff in the description, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.